following is a true story. You can't make this stuff up, trust me. Trinity Church, one of New York City's oldest churches, tried a Twitter experiment during their Good Friday service. Hundreds of worshipers watched the traditional dramatization of the crucifixion from their pews, while thousands more around the world followed along on smartphones and computers as a church staff member tweeted short bursts of dialogue and setting, like darkness and earthquake, then crucify him. Trouble began in the second hour. Twitter interactivity, its essence, made it easy for an anonymous text messenger to insert an unscripted character into the passion play. A Roman guard who breezily claimed, "I got dibs on his robe." Another texter introduced a rogue Mary Magdalene. Although Twitter is limited to 140 characters per message, you still have the potential to alter the greatest story ever told. Now maybe, worship and electronic chatter should not be combined. And yet religious groups, from Orthodox Jews to Muslims to the Pope himself, have signed on to Twitter, Facebook, and other social media networks in order to gain a global platform for appealing to young people. But new wrinkles constantly emerge, such as, should a priest friend a minor? Is it possible to merge the anonymous world of online life and the meaning of religious community? Referring to the quorum of 10 people required for most Jewish devotions, rabbis ask, can you tweet a minyan? Ministers' wives complain bitterly that although gossip about a minister's wife may be common in parking lots, having it end up on the internet can really freak you out. So it's a whole new world. Ossified religious institutions are trying to become relevant. New ethical issues spring up with every foray into the social media. Writers fantasize what they would tweet if they were the Pope, like Paul Rudnick of The New Yorker, who, writing as Pope Benedict XVI, tweets, "Someday I'd like to put on slacks and a cardigan and go see the Book of Mormon." Wow. Applicable to today, his papal tweet is, "Certain people think they have to attend church only on Christmas and Easter. I have one word for those people: lucky." So everything is fair game. Social media is totally unpredictable, and religious web consultants warn all religions that want to venture into this new realm that if you still want to exercise control, forget about it. It's a trade-off. Religious institutions are forced to yield their control, but they get to hear and learn from young people and reach out to them in new directions. So not only do you lose control when, let's say, presenting the Passion Play at Trinity Church with interloping characters, but you have no control as to what is posted, including the hostility often aimed at established institutions. It's really an interesting study. How do you pour old revelations into new containers of technology? How do you suddenly worship God in fewer than 140 characters? And if cyberspace has contradicted cosmic space with the impression that, well, God is not up there and the devil is not down there because there is no up or down anymore, then where do we find God, let alone a virtual God? And if heaven can't be located on my GPS, then why am I concerned about my salvation? Where am I going? Where is religion going? What would Jesus tweet? Although religion will inevitably have to make some accommodations to remain relevant, not only to youth, but a world increasingly dependent on technology for quick answers and easy social communities, some things in life remain a constant. As human beings, by merely being born, which is miraculous in and of itself, our lives are unavoidably filled with sorrow and joy. Buddhism teaches that life is filled with 10,000 sorrows and 10,000 joys. And although I doubt anyone has ever kept score, we agree universally that life is jam-packed with grief and jubilation. 10,000 is a metaphor, much like the Christian story that frames suffering and joy between Good Friday and Easter. Anguish and the feeling of being forsaken yield to the joy wrought by new life. That's how it all works. The same theme resounds in the Passover message. The metaphor in this case places the Israelites in Egypt, held in bondage, but they are released from their suffering and experience the joy of a new life, new possibilities, new beginning in a new land. And so regardless of tradition, only the metaphor really changes. Human beings cannot escape the inevitability of suffering, but this is always balanced by the good news of joy, be it in the guise of freedom or resurrection or the simple method of accounting. Hey, there are 10,000 sorrows in your life and 10,000 joys. Before moving to Salt Lake City, I lived in Arlington, Massachusetts for 10 years. There are many historical markers all over Massachusetts, but you kind of get oblivious to them, except for those right in the town where you live. You feel obligated to read them and study them as though you might be tested at the next town meeting. Well, here's one marker in Arlington that I'll never forget. On April 19th, 1775, Samuel Whittemore was shot, bayoneted, beaten, and left for dead. He was 80 years old, and when examined by Dr. Tufts, it was deemed useless to dress Mr. Whittemore's wounds. You know, I never really understood that marker, except on bad days I would remember Mr. Whittemore and console myself by the fact that at least I wasn't bayoneted, beaten, and left for dead. But being called to the ministry, I not only had to confront my own Good Fridays, my own sorrows, my own experience in Egypt, but I had to try to extract some kernel of meaning in the suffering that was experienced by the members of my congregation. I somehow knew that if I told them that their woes could not compare to what Mr. Whittemore suffered in 1775, that my pastoral work would need some improvement. There's something about the religious that requires us to ponder the meaning of suffering, because suffering is not an exception in life. One of my true good friends and colleagues, a man I've always respected for a very long time, the Reverend Peter Gomes, would say that religion was made for those moments when we confront the unconfrontable, or more to the point, when it confronts us. We are at a religious moment.